just sitting by the lake this morning and I had the most random thought, but I was just thinking about the fact that I'm grateful I never pulled an all-nighter in architecture school. So I thought I'd talk about it because for some reason it's still very glamorized and romanticized to work 24 hours a day. Why? I don't know. But let's talk about it. So here's how, over the 5 years of architecture school, which I have now completed successfully, I have just never ever pulled an all-nighter to do work. I've only pulled one all-nighter and that was for travel. That's it. So here we go. Start by actually explaining what the deal was for me in my bachelor's and master's, and then I'll go into actual tips. I did my bachelor's degree in architecture in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and there, in my experience, I felt a lot of peer pressure and pressure in general to work long hours, stay in the studio all day, and I never liked that. And to be honest, the second I heard from, I think it was a teacher who was talking about how everyone works, into the small hours of the day and that we should work over the weekends to gain time, that I told myself, you know what, that's the one thing I won't do. Like, I won't work 24 hours a day. I won't stay up to do work. And I'm really grateful for that because the whole 5 years I've managed to keep not doing that. Just because I found it as like a challenge. I was like, you know what? If everyone does this or everyone is expected to do this, I'll try and not to. And also just I was not a person that ever stayed up like past, I don't know, 1 or 2 a.m. Like I would just go to sleep anyway. So it just didn't seem practical for me to like change in that regard. So in my bachelor's degree, I definitely did work until like 8, 9 p.m. I would go into studio at 9 a.m., stay there pretty much all day, go back home, do more work. Even if I had like extracurriculars, I would do like cheerleading after studio time. Then I would still go back to studio after my cheerleading class, which is crazy in my opinion now. But at the time, I mean, that was the culture and that was what everyone was doing. So I kind of wanted to stay in that crowd. And everyone seemed to have this kind of like toxic, I want to be better than you mentality. And I kind of got into that as well for some reason. I think it's just like overall, you don't want to be left behind. And in my opinion, back then, it was like the most important thing for me to get good grades for school. So I definitely wanted to keep up with everyone. And then I actually started university in 2019. So I only had one semester on campus and then COVID broke out. So I had to go move back home to my parents. And there I also didn't work that long just because I felt very burnt out and I felt very isolated. So I didn't enjoy working that much. So I still wouldn't really work that late. I think I worked less even when I was at my parents' house during that time, just because I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't want to do anything. I felt already depressed enough by the fact that I had to stay home all the time, that yeah, I just didn't stay up that late. And then in third year, I prioritized socializing because we were back in kind of like regular on campus teaching, because in second year was pretty much all distance. So third year, I don't know, I felt like I was missing out on all the social events. I was so drawn by architecture and like that was the only thing I was really focusing on for the past 2 years. And then in third year, I decided, you know what, I want to go out with my friends. I want to spend more time outdoors. I want to experience student life rather than just being in the books. So that also meant that I didn't really prioritize staying up that late. I just basically made sure that I did all my assignments on time, submitted everything, and just went to sleep or went out with my friends. So the priorities kind of shifted. And then when I moved to Sweden to do my master's, I kind of, for the first time, realized that in architecture school, it's actually possible to have that balance between work that has an end at like 5 p.m. and then actually have a whole life after that. That architecture school is not the only thing that happens in someone's life when they're attending it. I know that sounds silly, but for a long period of time in my mind, I was like, if I'm doing university, that's the only thing I can do because I don't have time, I don't have time. But, you know, it really depends on the mindset shift. So I'm here to talk about it. So at my master's degree, I basically worked not later than 6 p.m. And of course, there are days, I don't know, I want to say like a week maybe in total over the scope over a year that I would stay a bit longer, but stay up a little bit longer, like working until, I don't know, 8. But there were no days where I would work past like, yeah, 6 p.m. And I still managed to do my work. So I'm gonna tell you how. Number one, you have to just try, okay? Try and then tell me if it works for you or not. But personally, the best way to start that is to actually have a schedule of 9 to 5. Treat it as a regular office job where you have a routine. You wake up in the morning and you go to your office and you start at 9 a.m., but you actually start work at 9 a.m., okay? Not that you set up at 9 a.m., you start work at 9 a.m. And then you work until, let's say, 12, so that's a solid, 3 hours. And then you have a lunch break, and then you continue working until 5. And I'm not saying don't socialize with your friends during that time. I'm not saying, you know, that you have to like zone out completely, but it helps so much because you know that during those times you have to get the work done and there's a deadline, and you will, believe me, you will do the same amount of work as you would do over like 10 hours in that shortened period of time, because in your head you're like, okay, I have to get it done by the end of the day, and my day ends at 5 or 6. Like, you have to just treat it as a office job, and it has changed the game for me completely, because then also past 6 p.m. I did all my work and I can relax for the day. And that also means it's guilt-free relaxation. I'm not watching Netflix stressed, okay? I actually can relax and take a break and rest for the next day. And if you treat relaxation and rest just as importantly as you do work, you will work better because you'll be more rested, you'll have more energy, you'll feel more creative. And also, if you're doing architecture, it's more likely than not that this is your dream study. So you want to have that energy to actually enjoy it and not dread it. And also another thing is, some people have, I mean, I've heard this before, but apparently I work fast, okay? And I don't know if it's like a thing that I've just taught myself, or if it's something that I already like kind of had within me, already just like came to school with it. But I think giving yourself a challenge or a time frame is great because you're kind of racing against the clock. And I know that might be a bit stressful for some people, but to me, it gives me that, okay, I need to get so and so done. What is my priority? And setting your priorities and what is the most like impactful thing to do will change the game. So if you do something that will push the project the most forward at that given moment, you will feel that satisfaction of doing a good piece of work, but also it will push the project ahead, so it will make that time fly by and also just shorten your workflow time. Everyone works differently, but I think if you're actually trying to find a solution for this and you're trying to cut down the amount of hours you're spending and not sleeping every day, then I say give it a shot. Try it out. Tell me. I think procrastination and time management comes hand in hand, so that's another thing I wanted to talk about, which is perfection. Procrastination sometimes is because you expect perfection and you kind of don't want to start because you know it won't be perfect the first time round you do it. And I just wanted to say perfection doesn't exist. And sometimes projects need to be left at a certain stage that is acceptable, that will fulfill requirements, and will get you a grade that will be satisfying. You don't have to do 3 million extra things. You can, but you don't have to. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow from someone that's coming from like a straight A background, but it's true. And sometimes an A can be achieved even though you don't see it as perfect. So just keep that in mind. So for the people that love a to-do list and love planning, just like me, when you make a to-do list, first of all, make one. Highly recommend, because then everything's clear. But when you have a to-do list, cut it down Like when you write what you have to do a certain day, cut it down by half, okay? Because when you have expectations of doing 3 million different things and you don't do them that day, you might feel bad about yourself. And we don't want that. We don't want any negativity. So if you have 3 most important things, 3 most impactful things that you can do during the day, and you tick those off, there'll be way more satisfaction. Yeah, because you don't want to be negatively looking at yourself thinking, oh, I should have done more. Like, you want to feel satisfied after the day that you've done something that contributes to your project and has a positive impact on it. And as you keep going and be consistent with your work, I think that's the most important thing, to be consistent and do little bit by little bit. And of course, you're not going to be at 100% every single day, but if you do get a little bit done, you'll feel satisfied and you'll feel gratitude about it. Then it's possible. You don't need to have all-nighters. You really don't. And I just don't understand it. I never understood it. And believe me, if you feel peer pressure to stay up late and people are bragging about, oh, I stayed up until 4 a.m. So what, dude? I had 8 hours of sleep. Who's more lucky? Tell me, please. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope this was helpful. I hope these tips were helpful. And please discuss in the comments. Do you stay up late? Do you work that long? Is it really worth it? I don't think so. Anyway, bye!